So near-death hiking experiences, surging RV sales, California wolves, and more, all coming up. So if we're just meeting, my name's Robert Witham. I'm just a guy who's had a lifelong love affair with the open road and road trips. And so these days I publish videos like this one, as well as some scenic and travel videos, books, magazine, podcasts, all kinds of things like that. If you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing so you can be notified when I publish new things on this YouTube channel. And I'll also mention some links in this video. If you're interested in following up with any of those, there will be links in the video description on YouTube as well. So in Nomad news, first up, a California man records a near-death experience. California man was hiking in Joshua Tree National Park when he accidentally fell and broke his leg. Robert Ringo fell while hiking near Quail Mountain, and after breaking his leg, was unable to extricate himself, and using his phone began recording what could have been his final moments. Ringo did have 2 liters of water with him on his hike, which was unfortunately quite inadequate for the desert sun there in Joshua Tree National Park, but it may have still have been a difference between life and death. Fortunately, Ringo had told his family about his hiking plans, when, where, all that sort of stuff, and as a consequence, they knew where he was going to be and when he was supposed to be back, so they knew where to start looking for him when he did not return. The Joshua Tree search and rescue team was able to locate Ringo and transport him to a hospital where he was underwent surgery for a broken leg. So I think there's a couple of important takeaways from this story. First is, always carry water, food, emergency supplies for hiking, even if it's just a day hike, as this was supposed to be for Mr. Ringo. Things happen. You fall and break your leg, or worse, you're going to need to be able to self-sustain until you can get out. You may not be able to get you water or a food source or anything, especially out in the desert. So, carrying that kind of stuff can literally be the difference between life and death if you end up in a bad situation while you're hiking. And on that note, make sure you have adequate supplies, to actually last you if you need to get stuck out there and stranded. And secondly, always leave details where you're going to be and when you expect to be back, when you're going, when you expect to be back, with someone you trust, like a family member or a close friend, who would actually notice if you didn't come back from a hiking trip or a backcountry adventure. In this case, that allowed searchers to find Mr. Ringo rather quickly. Still was out there for 40 hours, but, they were able to find him within a day and a half versus who knows what might have happened if his family didn't know where he'd gone and when he was supposed to be back. Next up in Nomad news, RV popularity is increasing amidst the pandemic. RV manufacturers are reporting a sharp increase in sales and demand for new RVs in the spring and summer of 2020 as more Americans take road trips and stay away from airplanes. Interestingly, as many as 80% of new RV purchases have been made by first-time RV buyers, and these buyers are younger on average than the normal RV customers. That's an interesting shift in the demographics of the RV industry. And it's probably unsurprisingly to any of us who have been doing this for a while, many of these new RV owners are reporting frustration and surprise at not being able to find campgrounds that are open or that have vacancy for their new RVs. Lassen Pack, California's only known wolf pack, has had at least 8 new pups. Researchers made the discovery through field observations and trail cameras. There are at least 6 other wolves in the Lassen Pack, in addition to the 8 new pups. Gray wolves were eradicated from California in the 1920s, but have made their way back in recent years. The only other known pack in California was a Shasta pack, which seems to have disappeared. Researchers haven't seen or heard from that pack in a while now. The existence of this Lassen pack was only confirmed in 2017, so it's a fairly recent pack as far as researchers are aware. And demand for used school buses is also increasing during the pandemic. Demand for used school buses to convert into DIY RVs has skyrocketed in 2020 as a result of the pandemic and people considering alternative lifestyles out of necessity or choice. Some bus resellers are actually reporting as much as a 6-fold increase in sales volume. Used school buses, of course, have long been converted into mobile living quarters, also known as skoolies. What is new in 2020 is the surge in demand and interest in doing this. Skoolies do, of course, offer some unique advantages, like an incredible amount of space and potentially a lower purchase price for a used bus, because usually there isn't that much demand for used school buses. It is worth noting a few challenges, though, if you're thinking about going with a school bus or any other commercial vehicle, including the vehicle registration and title requirements, as well as insurance requirements, vary by state, and the costs also vary by state, so make sure you know what you're going to cost you to register and insure something, and if you'll even be able to register and insure something like that if you decide to go that route. And also, while recently retired buses that are maintained by a school district are probably going to be pretty reliable vehicles, they're still going to break. Older ones, they maybe haven't had the greatest maintenance. You just don't know. But in any case, they're going to break eventually. When they do break, it can be very expensive to get parts, and it can be difficult to find a mechanic who will even work on them. So just something to be aware of if you're considering a skoolie or any other commercial vehicle in the middle of this surge in interest in 2020. All right, BLM is planning an emergency wild horse gather in Nevada. That's my home state these days, technically, and not too far from where I hang my hat during some of the spring and fall months, sometimes winter and sometimes summer, unfortunately. But yeah, Bureau of Land Management is planning an emergency wild horse gather in the Montezuma Peak Herd Management Area. That's south of Tonopah, and west of Goldfield in Esmeralda County, Nevada. It's basically the absolute middle of nowhere, but north of where I'm often at. So it's definitely the middle of nowhere out there. BLM plans to gather about 50 wild horses in 25 boroughs, stating that the gather is necessary due to lack of water and declining health of the herd due to overpopulation. I can believe that. I'm not there right now, so I can't tell you I've been out there to see these animals myself, but I'm always amazed they can survive in that environment, period. So, you think about the lack of water and the lack of grazing opportunities, and so they're just concerned there's actually just too many of them out there right now. So the BLM Battle Mountain District Manager Doug Furtado describes the situation in that range as dire. Removed wild horses and burros will be transported to the Ridgecrest Regional Wild Horse and Burro Corrals in Ridgecrest, California. Once there, the animals will be examined by a veterinarian, and when they're healthy, will be placed into the BLM's Wild Horse and Burro Adoption and Sale Program. So, linking down below, of course, if you want to check it out, if you'd like to adopt one of those wild horses or burros. Majestic animals. I absolutely love seeing them out in the wild. All right, time for listener questions. So I'd like to address some questions from viewers or listeners, whatever the case may be, depending on how you're enjoying this content. Leave your question or comment on YouTube or on social media, and I may feature it in an upcoming Monday video. Also, if you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit the like button if you haven't already. Comment from Gregory Jones on the recent traveling during a pandemic video. Gregory writes, when I fuel up, I put a hand sanitizer on the driver's seat, leave the driver's door open. I use my left hand for everything, touching nothing with my right hand. I grab the hand sanitizer through the open door with my clean right hand and squirt it onto my nasty left hand that's touched everything. Don't forget to go over the credit card you used to pay the pump. Great tip, Gregory. Thanks for sharing that. That's a little more robust than what I do, but I actually may try and roll that and adopt your strategy, because I think that's even a little better than the approach I've been using. But yeah, definitely anything we can do to keep ourselves safe and keep others safe in this time, the sooner we can get this thing under control. So great tip. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, some of us just do need to travel, or you have to get gas just going to the grocery store once in a while, right? In town, you're going to take gas. So great tip on how to do that as safely as possible. All right, then moving on to the recent Wyoming Bighorn Mountains scenery video, which went up Thursday last week, late July. This is like the August 2nd or 3rd as I'm recording this. Deborah Dickinson writes, what fun. We may have to get us some sort of 4x4 Robert to explore the back roads one day. What a wonderful video, as always. And once again, the music was perfect, too. Some of my fave moments, in addition to all of it, LOL. John slowing down to pass a camp. So many don't do that. That mountain scenery. Once again, John was the man turning around when the trail ended instead of going on like some do. The pretty flowers and Rowdy almost scared me to death at 7:41. All right, so I made that a pinned comment actually because Deborah mentioned several timestamps. So in case you want to check out those timestamps and see what she was talking about, that should show up at the top of the list in the comments. So thank you, Deborah. And yeah, I take I mean, Fancy Free, the Old Gray, you know, they're pretty capable off-road vehicles, but there's a lot of forest roads or BLM roads where you're just not going to take a van if you actually want to get out again. So yeah, it would be nice someday to have a 4x4. We could do some more of those roads. I've had opportunities to go out with a few different people over the years, and this most recent one on a side-by-side, but with a few different friends at four-wheel drives and stuff, and it's great to be able to get out a little deeper and further back than I dare to go with just a van. All right, so a comment from Guy Martin. Guy writes, it's really pretty looking in the mountains, but how did all the tree piles happen? You know, I am not actually sure exactly how these came about in this forest. I believe they call them like slash piles or something like that. But anyway, so I don't know if it was like Forest Service piled up trees that had fallen or were diseased and they piled into these piles, or I don't know if this was, I'm just not sure if they'd allowed some logging in that area and this was I'm not sure how that came about. And I'm not actually sure why they do it. I do know I've seen that in areas that have been logged or cleaned out where they pile up in big piles. I can't imagine they'd want a bonfire because, I mean, but boy, it also seems like it's just an awful big bonfire pile waiting to happen. So I'm just not sure about that. Good question. If anybody watched this does know why they have these big piles of downed trees and brush in the mountains, specifically here in the Bighorns, let us know in the comments. Thanks. So, comment from Linda Witham, had to point this one out. That's my mom. Said, I'm sorry we missed the camping trip. Beautiful scenery. I'm surprised with the campers along the way. Great fun with John. Yeah, it was a great family time opportunity we had to get out and camp. My folks were in Wyoming. Were supposed to be going with us. My dad's a minister in Massachusetts and had 2 deaths in the church while he was gone, as they had to get back to attend to a funeral. So, we understood why they had to leave a little early, but it was, of course, disappointing they weren't able to join us up in the mountains there for a couple days. And one more comment from Mark Wolf. Big sky country and spending quality time with the kids and grandkids. That's awesome. Yeah, hard to beat that in any way, shape, or form, and I was very thrilled we were able to do that. Thanks for joining this video, everybody. If you're interested in knowing more about the nomadic lifestyle, please consider subscribing to this channel on YouTube or to this channel in your favorite podcast listening service. You may also be interested in my book, How to Be a Successful 21st Century Nomad, or my online course, Nomad Lifestyle 101. Links to both are in the video description below if you're watching on YouTube, or you can get the information at my website, robertwitham.com. So thanks again for joining me in this video, everybody. I will see you in the next one.